I'm Representative Nan Hayworth.
Right now, Representative Nan Hayworth joins us live on set. She'll sound off on everything from the race for the White House to her own re-election race for Congress. And next,
I don't apologize for the fact that I'm consistently pro-life.
he's still not apologizing, though the calls for Representative Todd Akin to pull out of his Senate race after his legitimate rape comment continue today, but he's not backing down. Will his comments on rape and abortion end up impacting the presidential race? And later,
I think anybody should be able to give away water on the sidewalk to anybody.
the fight over free water. One woman in Arizona told she could not hand out free bottles of water in the middle of a summer heat wave. Why? Because she didn't have a permit. We're going to ask what is going on here. Good evening and welcome to RFL. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French on this Wednesday evening, August the 22nd. We are now just 75 days away from Election Day, and there is a lot going on, so we want to jump right into it with our first guest tonight, Congresswoman Nan Hayworth, Republican representing currently the 19th District in New York, yes, soon running for re-election or in the 18th District after redistricting that comes forward. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Want to start with the issue that seems to be sucking all the oxygen out of the room right now. Sure. Congressman Todd Akin, I know you know the comments that he made about legitimate rape over the weekend. You've served with the congressman for the last 2 years, or nearly 2 years in Congress. He's being portrayed as all sorts of things right now. What can you tell us about him just as a person? Well,
I don't know Todd Akin well. He seems to be a deeply religious man. I understand he has 2 daughters. I don't imagine that he intended his comments to come out as they did, but they were outrageous. They were insulting. There is no basis in medical fact for what he said. I certainly can't support his comments, and I am with those who say that he should step down from this race.
At some point yesterday, your opponent in this race, Sean Patrick Maloney, went on Twitter with a comment about your response, or lack thereof at that point, to what he wrote, or to what Congressman Akin said. Here's what he wrote. Nan Hayworth joins Steve King as one of few not to denounce Todd Akin's anti-woman statement. You had a few comments about it before your office released a comment during the overnight hours. Would you like to make an official statement? Well,
in fact, I have made an official statement. We were responding to some requests from journalists, and of course I also have a lot going on in terms of just being on the road with constituents. But absolutely, his his comments were, as I just noted, insulting, offensive, completely unsupported by any medical evidence,
and this coming from a physician,
demeaning to women. No woman should ever be at the mercy of a man who forces himself on her, and every woman has the right to control her own reproductive destiny. You can't make it plainer than that.
In the official release from your office during the overnight, you also said that you think it should be up to the people of Missouri to determine whether Congressman Akin continues to remain a candidate for the U.S. Senate, as well as a member of the U.S. House.
Well, I said it is up to the people of Missouri,
sure,
essentially.
The de facto leader of your party right now, Mitt Romney, the presumptive nominee, he released a statement the other day, and he went a little bit further. He said Akin's comments were offensive and wrong. I think he should exit the Senate race. Do you think he should exit the Senate race? Do you think he should resign from Congress?
Well, I certainly can't support him. I think he should leave the race for the sake of, speaking as someone who would like to see a Republican who is of sound mind and policies hold that seat. I think it's a political liability, potentially. But having said all of those things, clearly it will ultimately be the decision of the voters in Missouri, the Republican voters in particular, if Congressman Akin does not voluntarily leave the race. It's a very troubling situation politically, and as someone observing the public discourse.
Now, the incident with Congressman Akin has, for better or for worse, re-injected the issue of abortion into the national dialogue right now. And we did a little digging around, trying to find some information, both about Congressman Akin and about your takes on the issue. NARAL, the biggest pro-choice group in the country, issues grades on individual members. Your grade from NARAL is a 5% out of 100%. Representative Aiken's grade is a 0% out of 100%. Your 5% grade was based on a few votes that you've taken, and NARAL lists them as well. You voted to block Planned Parenthood funding twice, ban abortions in state exchanges, come up with tax penalties for private insurance plans with abortion coverage. You've got hospitals are allowed to refuse emergency abortion care. You voted for the D.C. abortion ban, the global gag rule as well, and abortion training restriction.
We took a vote on a so-called D.C. abortion bill recently, and I actually voted present because I feel that those issues should be left to the people in the District of Columbia.
And how should pro-choice voters in the 18th District view your campaign for re-election, given that score? And I'm sure you would like their votes regardless of their position on abortion.
Well, look, I'm staunch about taxpayer funding, and that the tax treatment of those issues has to be clear-cut. This is a deeply held issue for an awful lot of Americans who do not want to see their tax dollars go toward elective abortion. And with the passage of the 2010 health law, there were a lot of new implications for individuals and institutions in terms of their contributions toward that kind of elective procedure, with notable exceptions for rape, incest, severe threat to the life of the mother. And those also are clear-cut. But I do support conscience protections for our institutions and for American taxpayers, if you will.
Even if that leaves some women potentially not able to get an abortion, or at least to get the funding for an abortion.
I cannot imagine that there would be a circumstance in which there would be a proscription on the provision of those circumstances, of those procedures when they are legally allowed, that would not be provided for in some way. But it can't be with federal tax dollars on this sort of routine basis. There are legitimate emergency circumstances: rape, incest, life of the mother. Nobody is arguing those things, but elective procedures we can legitimately talk about as a key issue for people of conscience.
You mentioned those exemptions. Yesterday, the Republican Party Platform Committee voted up what its prescription is, or what its position is, the party's official position likely to be, when it comes to abortion. We want to put it up on the screen. We assert the sanctity of human life and affirm that the unborn child has a fundamental individual right to life which cannot be infringed. It continues by saying, we support a human life amendment to the Constitution and endorse legislation to make clear that the 14th Amendment's protections apply to unborn children. There are no exemptions in that position. That is likely to be the official policy of the Republican Party, of your party. Do you agree with that platform? And because this will have an impact on additional votes going forward as they come up.
Potentially. I don't specifically campaign on the Republican platform. I didn't in 2010 campaign on the antecedent Republican platform, which was the 2008 platform, which had, as far as I know, very similar language. I represent the citizens of the Hudson Valley, the constituents of the Hudson Valley. I feel that women have to have that right and that autonomy over their own reproduction. So the existence of a human life amendment, depending upon the terms, but as I understand it, would be counter to that individual autonomy, and I would have a problem with that.
But from my reading of that platform, it would indicate, if turned into policy, that a doctor, for example, could be prosecuted for performing an abortion.
I voted against criminal prosecution of doctors. That's just, and I think the likelihood of that happening is extremely slim. So I don't think that kind of measure would pass. And I think there are enough Republican votes against that kind of invasion, if you will. You know, we are talking about the right of people to act according to their conscience. We're
going to take a quick break here. We're going to get into what we thought this campaign was going to be about, issues like jobs and the budget and the economy. That comes up as our interview with Congresswoman Nan Hayworth continues. Keep it right here on RFL.